Hey, Angela Payne, welcome to our first Lead HR video.
Hello, Charles Fortier. Excited to be here.
Yeah, definitely. And for our first video, what we thought we could do, what we thought would be relevant, is to react to a leadership article that you and I both read in the Harvard Business Review recently.
Yes, it was the March-April edition of the Harvard Business Review.
And the article, for people maybe looking for the article itself, the article is entitled How Insider CEOs Succeed. And it's an article that talks about 5 challenges that newly appointed CEOs need to go through when they actually start their new job.
Yes. And what was interesting about it, because you and I are avid readers, we thought that it was, yes, relevant to CEOs, but also more than that, it was actually relevant to anybody taking on a new leadership role inside their organization. And so that's why we were interested in it. It outlines the 5 challenges, which are, managing decisions, unpopular decisions, perhaps that, you would be making, people that were your supporters. It talks about really, being able to operate in the shadow of the past, which means people know you in the organization a certain way, and now you're taking on this new role. The third one, which is the one that we want to talk about, is really overseeing your former peers. The fourth one is around the pace of change, and so making sure that you're running to the change or the pace that the organization is at. And then lastly, which may or may not be relevant, is really managing the outgoing CEO.
Yeah, definitely all relevant challenges. We do have, when anybody starts a new leadership job, definitely things that need to go through. We think that the managing peers is actually, I would say, almost the most important one, or at least the most foundational one, because if you think about it, managing like past peers is really something that, like it or not, you need to do from day one in that job.
Absolutely. And really this one, if you can get this one and be successful at this one, I think, we believe that you've got a good chance of being successful in the others. And quite honestly, it's very close to the work that we do, really around this idea of, managing your relationships, so your interpersonal relationships, right? Which is built on trust and compassion, and then, your ability to really show empathy in the role, when you're thinking about keeping the person whole, and how that might impact them when you're actually faced with managing your former peers.
Yeah, definitely important to have that in mind when you start, right? Because I think that, sometimes, that the danger is if you're appointed to this leadership job, and mostly also if it's your first leadership job, you may go to default of thinking about yourself a lot, right? You're happy, you're proud of getting that job. You want to make sure that, you succeed, and you want to implement change. But leaders that actually work under the emotional intelligence umbrella will spend, maybe more time thinking about how other people are going to perceive and are going to react to the appointment. So, the best case scenario is that, of course, you're appointed to this job and everybody likes you and everybody's looking forward for you doing that job. Then, you can basically just jump in and start. But I think most of the time, you'll have people on your team that maybe don't know you as well, or they don't know your style and your leadership style, so that may create in them some emotion of anxiety, not being too sure what to expect in the future. And I think it's upon the newly appointed leader to to engage in those conversations to make sure that the past peers are actually well and they're ready to contribute to this new team. And I think just to compound this even a little bit more is that we know also that when a leadership job is open on a team, doesn't necessarily mean you'll be the only person applying, right? There could be like
Absolutely.
multiple people on the team applying on the job, which then can add like other emotions on the team of frustrations toward, from the people that didn't get the job, or even resentment towards
Yes.
newly appointed leader.
Yeah, and it's really that newly appointed leader's role or job to sort of lean forward on that first, right, and initiate those conversations. So I think that that's an important piece.
So what do you think, Angela, for somebody that's in this situation, like what would be like the first few steps for this newly appointed leader to be successful in that transition?
Yeah, I think there's two things, right? I think one is to really manage and acknowledge, to be mindful that this may be the case. That while you're really excited, there's an opportunity for you to step back and really sort of take in the situation and assess on an individual basis the people on your team and what you may need to put in place, which ultimately will enable you to create a plan. Many new leaders create plans that they can work off the first 90 days, the first 100 days. This will really sort of solidify the go forward that you have. And ultimately, then you can get to the work at hand, right? You were hired to lead, and being well prepared and being very self-aware will help you start that process. So I would say that those are a couple of good starting points.
Good. Well, Angela, thanks for the insight. We're going to put the link at the bottom of this post so people can go and actually read the article.
Yeah, absolutely. But we also are really hoping that people will join in on the conversation. What things did we not think about? Are we missing? Have you had a leadership experience like this that maybe you could share? Because I think it's really relevant to people who are, in this situation. And not everyone is exactly the same. So there's lots to learn.
Great. Well, thank you so much, Angela.
Thank you.